Hey, are you concerned about protecting that brand new pretty sled that you just got? Here's the solution. Use SledSend 24 for a 15% off discount code on some backwoods bumpers, the industry leader in performance protection.
SledSend listeners, welcome back to the next episode. We are still at Heydays. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Be sure to subscribe if you're watching on the YouTube channel, or if you guys are listening on audio platforms, thank you for tuning in there as well. And as always, be sure to check the description. We've got a ton of companies on board this year with a ton of discounts for you guys, so be sure to check that out. Speaking of sponsors, this year, one of our new sponsors is Carbon Pursuit, and we actually have the owner and the founder of Carbon Pursuit, Frank. Welcome to the show, dude. Thanks for being here.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I know we've been trying to pull this together for a while, so I'm stoked to be on this and just catch up with you guys. And to do it in person is a whole nother thing, too.
It's the best way.
Yeah, this is awesome. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Of course.
Pretty good place to do it, too.
Yeah, Heydays, baby.
Yeah. Hard to beat.
Have you been to Heydays before?
So we've been doing Heydays for a long time. I mean, we've done Heydays as spectators, and then the last couple of years we did Heydays in the swap. So actually, just trying to get the company off the ground in the swap. And so then this is our first year in the vendor area. So we're pretty excited to kind of take that next step up and kind of move into the vendors. So
awesome.
Heck yeah.
My first year. Congrats for your first year in the vendors.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah, that's sick. So before we get too far in the business stuff, more on the personal side, where are you from?
So we're from kind of north of the Twin Cities here in Minnesota, so kind of the Rogers, Elk River area, for those that are listening. So in that area, so not too far from Heydays here, about an hour drive. So, northern Minnesota, or not northern Minnesota, but kind of mid-central Minnesota. So,
got it.
Born and raised there, so both me and my wife Leah are from that area. So,
okay.
Yep.
Nice. Cool. So, all right, so this whole concept and business of Carbon Pursuit. So take us, well, maybe we should first start off with your exposure to snowmobiling. In general. So how did you get exposed to riding sleds? Yeah,
so kick it all the way back to the start. I mean, I think I have a very traditional, upbringing in snowmobile similar to other people. I mean, I started on a kitty cat, worked all the way up through, the small use sleds into, the first 440. My uncle and cousins were all cross-country racers here in Minnesota, so largely grew up around Arctic Cat growing up, just very involved with those sleds. I remember every year that when they would get their race sleds, it was always, oh man, we get to go see what, they're racing this year and stuff like that. So I'd say that's the start, and then my wife, her family's big into snowmobiling too. So just kind of coming together on that, really kind of pushes that even further, when you have a person that in your life
you've already got that support system.
Exactly. To go buy a new sled or new gear isn't as painful when the other person supports it as well. Yeah. So I mean, I think like I said, a very traditional, upbringing, just, Minnesota boy, just totally in love with the sport. Mm-hmm. And then I would say that, as I got older, that just gets more and more. So, it's kind of like, you guys are from the West, and for me in Minnesota, it's that first trip out to the mountains. And then you just it's a whole nother love for the sport. And I think at that point in my life, it was like, okay, this is something that I want to run with, like there's an opportunity here to just, fully engage in the sport. Yeah. And then what can I do with it from a business standpoint? And then I guess if we want to dive into that a little bit, trying to just roll into it.
Yeah, kind of how the idea came about.
So basically, my degree is in composite engineering. So I'm a composite engineer by trade, if you want to say that. So, various carbon fiber, glass fiber, plastics, things like that. Mm-hmm. And so going through school, it was kind of this hey, here's this degree that I'm doing, and I'm starting to see, opportunities within, the passion that I have in snowmobiling. Right. And so right away, as, just a school project, we did a carbon fiber ski, just because it was oh man, let's see what we can do with skis, And so that was our first little endeavor, and then, got out of school and, kind of jumped right into my career. And so I did some, in the aviation world, did some big carbon fiber composite floats for float planes, and that's really where I just gained all my knowledge of how to build carbon fiber parts the right way. I'm gonna say the aerospace way, and so that's where I really kind of took this as hey, this is a great opportunity for me. And being in that, I kind of started to get that feeling of but my passion is still over here, and I don't want to leave that, and I want to go back to that. And I think that was kind of the start of Carbon Pursuit is, talking with Leah one night, and it's like, man, there's an opportunity here, and, I want to fully dive into this. And she's always been a huge supporter of it, and so she was like, yeah, I mean, if you want to make a go of this, do it, dive in. And so that's kind of what we did, is we just kind of jumped in, didn't dip our toes in the water or anything, just kind of jumped in, and really kind of kicked this off with, the Alpha rail brace being our first part, and just kind of trying not to look back from then on.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. How did you come up with the name?
So that's just
the carbon part speaks for itself, but the Pursuit.
Yeah, so I would like to say the whole brand is all together. So like I spent a lot of time just wanting to have something that honestly becomes a legacy. Like at the end of the day, I want somebody to relate Carbon Pursuit with a company that's been around. Like you have these big companies like Speedworks and all the big ones that have been here. It's like that's the ultimate goal, right? Is something that lives on, and sledders remember. And so it's like, okay, I want to put time into the logo and everything like that. And so Carbon Pursuit kind of stems on, we have the helmet logo, and it's like, okay, you have this warrior, right? That he's got to be strong, but yet he's got to be like lightweight as well. And that's kind of like the play on carbon. And then like the pursuit comes into like this pursuit of a passion and a dream, to do something great, but then also like just the pursuit of snowmobilers, right? Like, we're all chasing that next trip, that next memory, all that stuff. And so it all kind of ties together as like, something that I can look at that logo and be like, dang, I'm really proud of that, know? Yeah. So that's where that comes from.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, it's super clean. I love the logo, the name.
That.
No, it's
the hat's clean too. I like the leather patch.
Yeah, thank you. Yep. So that's always part of the business, is to find that right, combination of parts to merchandise, and things like that. So
yeah, for sure. I feel coming up with a name too, you can be in your head about it. Like it's hard to come up with the name.
Easy to tell yourself like, oh, it doesn't sound that good. It doesn't sound that good. But it's like, no, it sounds pretty good.
Yeah. But when you said the airplane thing, obviously I thought of you, Kobe. You need any carbon
so
on your
what were
airplane?
you doing? Yeah, what were you, I guess, making for?
Yeah, so we had a real small team of engineers here, like really high quality, senior level engineers, and we were basically designing carbon fiber floats for the Twin Otter. So the float on the Twin Otter is like 35 feet long, 5 feet wide, 5 feet deep. So a massive float.
Yeah.
So, full build process, like upper, lower skins coming together, bulkheads in the middle, like a very traditional process for aerospace, but something that for general aviation was kind of new.
Yeah.
And so that was just, the guys I worked with were unbelievable. And so like just soaked in as much knowledge as I could over the course of my time doing that, and just like that's kind of spurred into what I do, so like
Gotcha.
There's a lot of guys that, do carbon fiber, but then it's the level of like what I do is like pre-preg materials. And so it's just different. And so it's a little bit more towards that like aerospace side of things than like your hobby maker style.
What do you mean on pre-preg materials there?
Yeah, so basically you kind of got a couple different forms of like making composites, right? So you can kind of have your traditional ways like dry fabric, wet resin, paintbrush, slap it on, right?
Okay.
And then you have like dry fiber, wet resin that you suck through the part, and that's called infusion. And then you have what I do where it's pre-preg material. So the sheets of carbon come already like sticky with resin on them, and it's all stored in a freezer. And so I take it out, it thaws out, and then I build my parts with that material.
Okay.
So that's
Gotcha.
like when you're making like, so if you guys have seen like the headlight delete this year, so we came out with a Polaris Matrix headlight delete, and so that's got like contours and shape to it and everything. And so like building in a mold, like that's a great way to do those kind of parts is with pre-preg material.
Got it.
Is it more difficult doing the molded stuff?
It's definitely more difficult. I mean, anything where you start to add in like complex geometry and contours and things like that, like there's a nice Z step in that, Polaris Matrix on the backside of that headlight. And that's kind of like in order to get it to fit up in there and tuck nice and everything like that. But like if you guys will see this weekend, like that thing is clean. Like it fits perfectly in the opening. Like it's, it's not just a big block in there, it's like it's shaped and everything like that. So.
Right.
Yep. How long does it take you to, are you by yourself building stuff?
Yep, it's just me in the shop, so
that's cool.
Basically, from start to finish.
He's out here grinding.
Yeah.
By yourself?
Yep, by myself. The design work.
I'm like, you ever get any buddies that come and help you, or you try to keep it by yourself?
So Leah helps me. It's me and Leah. So there's certain things like, carbon fiber is not the cleanest of processes. So like,
sure.
Anything where I got to get in like, I call it a bunny suit, but it's basically like a hazmat suit, full ventilator system, anything like that. Leah, don't come in the shop,
Yeah,
stay away. Let me do that work. But like she does a lot of like, just laying up some of the parts, like our rail braces are flat. So, I've taught her how to build those and things like that. So she helps as much as she can.
Sweet.
But we got a little 2-year-old. So, it's kind of like the family dynamic where, it's a juggling act.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Just me out in the shop most of the time.
Nice. That's awesome.
How long does it take you to build, I guess, something carbon fiber?
Yeah, start to finish. I mean, it's a process. So when you think of like you're taking a frozen material out of the oven, you've got a good process to thaw, right? So usually it's like I take it out at the end of the night, it thaws out overnight, so it's ready to go in the morning kind of thing from a build perspective. So like let's take like the rail brace, our Alpha rail brace, for example, so that's probably, half hour to an hour to build the full part, put it under vacuum, so it goes under vacuum to pull pressure down on the part, and then it goes in the oven, 8-hour cure cycle in the oven, comes out to a water jetter, gets cut out, back to me, sand, polish, buff, polish again, just to get everything nice and clean.
Make sure it's shiny.
Yep, I really pride myself in like every part that goes out, there's no shortcuts, right?
Yeah.
Like everything's gonna look nice, it's gonna be what the customer expects, so it's a process. I mean, it's definitely, there's a lot of aluminum parts in this industry. I mean, I give those guys a ton of credit for what they've been able to do with aluminum, but at the end of the day, like they press start on that CNC mill and that thing cuts out 20, 100 parts. Like I'm building each one by hand, So it's a whole nother level.
I mean, that goes back into what you just said about the long term and the legacy. Hey, what's up, guys? I want to take a quick second to introduce another one of this year's sponsors. We have RSI. So the handlebar setup on your sled is arguably probably one of the most important components on your whole setup. So definitely check out their site. They've got a ton of different products, and use SledSend24 at checkout for a discount. Yeah, right? So doing it by hand, each one, and not taking any shortcuts, right? Because that's not going to build the legacy that you're desiring for yourself and the company.
Yep.
Right. So did you have something else on that? No. Okay, so
I was just curious about, how long a process would take or whatever.
Yeah.
How strenuous.
So the first product you came out with was the Alpha rail brace?
Yep, Alpha rail brace. So, I've got the 2019 Alpha, and so when that product first hit the market, there's a lot of guys that jumped on that right away. And
Did you snap a rail?
So I have snapped a rail. I have snapped a rail in the traditional spot, kind of like in the front. And so, that's kind of leads into our new product this year where we've got a front brace. But back to the original, it was kind of like, hey, there's an opportunity to do something light. And so, there's a lot of great aluminum braces out there. I mean, I give those guys a ton of credit. A lot of people have great products.
Yeah.
But ours it's light, and the strength to weight ratio is where we shine. Carbon's dang near twice as strong as aluminum, and I'm a fraction of the weight. I'm 2 pounds for a full rail brace on something that out of aluminum at that thickness, 4 or 5 pounds, so I mean, we're saving guys weight where we can.
Yeah, which is crucial.
Yep, it's crucial.
Yep. Absolutely. And then so from the rail brace, then you went to the belly.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So we did a skid plate.
Skid plate.
Yep, for the belly on the cats. I got to give a shout out to Chase Yock on that one.
Oh, yeah.
He got back to me and said, hey, there's an opportunity here, and so I appreciate Chase for sharing his riding feedback with us.
Yeah.
Chase was one of the first adopters of our products, so got to know the guys out at Freshies really good.
Oh yeah.
Kyle and those guys. I mean, I owe those guys so much for just being there from the ground floor for me and totally accepting Carbon Pursuit into the sled world, basically, and kind of taking me under their wing.
Oh, yeah.
And so those guys kind of started running our stuff right away. Chase put those parts on, really gave us a full year of testing. And Chase rides hard. And so we kind of felt really good coming out of that year with Chase riding, I mean, I make as many trips out west as I can, but I can't do the daily that Chase does.
Yeah.
And so that's where we kind of were like, okay, we got 2 great cat parts to provide to that Ascender chassis right off the start.
Heck yeah.
100%. That's awesome.
So then from there you went to what? What next? Did you develop?
Then we've done some I'd say custom parts. So we do a belt guard for the cats. So we've got a couple of those that guys are out there testing, and kind of running for us, just shaving weight where we can. We can shave about 1.5 pounds off that belt guard, just so that's, a little bit here and there.
It's weight reduction.
Yep,
it adds up.
Yep. And on the clutch side too. So that's where you need to save that weight.
Yeah.
So we got a couple parts like that. And then coming into this year, it was kind of like, okay, I need to pivot. I need to start targeting the big OEMs that everybody is riding. You know, guys know me. I'm a cat guy through and through. I love my cats, but there's such the quantities of Polaris and Skidoos are so much higher.
Yeah.
And so kind of at that point, it was like, okay, I got to get a Skidoo. Or I mean a Polaris. Take that back.
Expand.
Got to get a Polaris. And so start there, and so we picked up, luckily Kyle had a carryover rental sled at the end of a season, and he put them up for sale, and I was like, dude, I'll take it. I'm going to take that. I need that for development work.
Yeah.
And so brought that 22 home, and basically have just been trying to figure out where we can provide something that's different from what's already been done on that chassis.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so you're doing the Chaos Rail braces?
Yes, Chaos Rail brace. I'm really stoked for that one. So
Me too.
Yeah, I know. I'm super excited. So we got a 155 Chaos Rail brace. That's where we're starting out. My goal is to, if the adoption is good, to totally expand into the 146s and the 165s on the Polaris Chaos rails. I believe, I still got to check out here at Heydays, but I think that rail brace will fit the pros as well, because we should be just before that rail tips up in the front. So I think it should fit more than just the Chaos, but I gotta make sure on that first. But yeah, so we got that for this year. We had a little hiccup right before the show here. 24s have reversible ice scratchers. And so luckily Tyler was good enough to go to a dealership for us, send a bunch of pictures. And so we've got a design fleshed out that will have a pocket for that reversible ice scratcher to drop in. So anybody that places orders will be getting that updated version.
Nice. Aren't the new 24 rails, the steepness is the same? Didn't they change that? I'm pretty sure they matched the rails this year, so there's no two different. There's not a Chaos and a RMK rail.
I believe you're right.
I think they have both the same rails now.
Yep, for 24. So I believe we should be able to totally span.
You should be good right across the board.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I read that.
Tyler's like, I'm not so sure.
I don't know, because it totally could be correct, but I thought that I don't know if they were still the same, but I think they changed, because I watched, I think Matt Ince did a video on it, and they changed the Chaos so that it wasn't as steep.
Could have been that.
Okay.
But it's not this, I don't think it's the same as the Pro entirely. I think it's just not as steep and aggressive as the previous. I believe. I think they're still two different. They just toned down.
We'll look it up after the show.
Yeah.
Chaos.
Well,
if you're listening, put us on game and let us know that we're wrong or correct or whatever it may be. So.
Or if you guys get a call that there's some guy in Carbon Pursuit gear over at the Polaris booth trying to do fit checks on things, that's probably me.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. So then you're also introducing the headlight deletes this year too?
Yep, headlight deletes. So bringing that to the Matrix chassis. So there's really good weight savings there. We can shave just over 3 pounds just by dropping that headlight delete out. And it's super simple. Ours is literally the stock 3 existing screws. Drop it out, 3 existing screws back in, and you're good to go. Nice. So it's something where the guy that's, out west and, hey, I know I'm going to be back to the trailer at a good time tonight, throw the headlight delete in. If you know you're going to, hey, we're going to be riding into the night tonight, throw the headlight back in. If you're not running like an Oxbow light or something like that, you got options. It's a simple swap.
Yeah.
Nice.
Do you ever see yourself doing a full-fledged skid or rail?
I mean,
I beat you to that conversation already.
Tyler and I have talked a lot about that.
On the podcast, I must have missed it.
No.
Not on the podcast.
I think, for us, we're largely trying to grow this community of sledders that, recognize Carbon Pursuit for not only our products, but our customer service and our reliability. And so I want to instill that trust where people buy our products and they can say, hey, I know what I'm going to get is going to work and everything like that. And so at that point, I've told Tyler that, I want to start, bringing in those bigger products, now that we're starting to roll more, like starting to get those products that people are like, hey, they got multiple OEMs, they've got stuff that's more structural and things like that, and I think the proof is in, just these rail braces, right? So it's like that. Okay, people can see that we're strengthening the rail brace and then moving into more of like a traditional, carbon fiber rail. But then it's just a way of figuring out how to do it, different than how it's already been done, and how we can do it better.
10-4.
Heck yeah. Are there any other parts and pieces that are coming in the future that you can speak on? Or
yeah, I mean, I would love to continue. I think the next big step is to branch into Skidoo, branch into that Gen 5 chassis. There's some good opportunities there as well. We've definitely looked at rail braces for that sled. We really like our skid plates, and so skid plates for the Gen 5 Skidoo or the Polaris Matrix. Some really good opportunities there. Those are bigger parts, and so it's a matter of just trying to figure out how we can do that cost effective, so that we don't price ourselves out of the game, with carbon fiber. But, we're pretty proud of, how those skid plates and things like that operate. And then Tyler, I know we've talked a lot about getting more up on the control side of things, and so can we start looking at things like throttle levers and brake levers and things like that. So I think the opportunities are, endless. It's just a matter of, how much me in the shop by myself at night can get through,
Do you see yourself bringing anybody on board to either help grow or maybe just a possible laborer?
That's a great question. I mean, at the end of the day, it's hopefully there's a point where that makes sense. I mean, hopefully as we continue to, grow and bring more products, that we kind of get to that point where it's like, hey, in order to continue to scale, we need someone to help out. But for the time being, I see it being, that kind of continued grind for a little bit to continue to grow.
A long-term play.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I love carbon fiber.
Yeah, I'm really excited. We've been talking, so we're releasing our Chaos braces, our Polaris braces, in traditional black, but we do have the opportunity to do a lot of custom colors. So we do, some of those on the Alpha, we got our, blue, green, red, orange, but we're going to get some white in this year. So we're pretty excited about that. Tyler had asked for some white, and so, so we're going to grab some white this year and really kind of see how the market adopts that, if people are like, wow, this white on black looks really good, that's something that then we can start stocking more of that. So it's things like that where working with SledSend is a great opportunity for us, because it's it allows us to see what other people want and then get that out to a broader market, so it's me as Carbon Pursuit, if I post something to my Instagram, my reach is just smaller than if SledSend posts it, so when that white and black rail rolls in for SledSend, I mean, that's going to be a great way to see, how the market takes that.
100%.
Yeah, so the white braces are going to go on just the stock black rails for the 155 boost. And then I'm going to take my 146 stock rails and get them powder coated white.
That's awesome.
And then put the black carbon fiber 146 braces on.
That is going to be so cool.
So that'll pop on both of those. It'll look, I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's going to be super cool. Super cool.
Good.
Yeah.
It'll look really good.
Yeah. So, did you have something else, Kobe?
Not right off the top of my head, no. I
Okay.
can generate more.
I guess I'll kick it back to you guys for a question. You know, so SledSend, it's this is, what year is this that we're entering for SledSend?
Season 3, baby.
Season 3. So, I mean, it seems like, the growth was awesome last year for you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I really saw it as the season went that, it's like, you guys did a great thing for the industry by bringing this sled specific podcast and then pulling big guys in and things like that. Yeah. And so, kick it back. What's the goal for this year going in?
Yeah, well, we have a pretty stacked lineup of ambitions. As far as numbers and support, last year we had 4 sponsors on board, and this year we're over 10.
That's awesome.
And so that's you being one of them, obviously. And so that's it's obviously cool to have sponsors, and what that means for us individually and our sleds and stuff, but it more so speaks to the point of the value of SledSend in the podcast, because we wouldn't have that many companies if they didn't see what we were doing and recognizing that we were doing something a little bit different. There's some other podcasts out there and stuff, but we're super niche on just snowmobiling, and part of that, selfishly, is because I don't do anything other than snowmobile. I grew up in Montana, hunted, fished, all that kind of stuff, and I just don't do any of that anymore. My hobby is snowmobiling and traveling. And so, then it was Jeff's idea from the very beginning of hey, we should do one every single week, all season long. And so we were like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do that. And then we started doing it. It was like, oh my, this is some work. Which, and we haven't missed a single day. We skipped one weekend for our 50th episode because we were waiting for Kobe to get back. And so we wanted to do one with the team. So it's him, myself, and Jeff. And then we're missing our last team member, Shay.
Okay.
So we paused on one weekend so that we could all get together for that. But other than that, we've ran, every single week, October to May, which is pretty cool.
It's super cool.
But so the long-term thing of it, You know, I don't really know where we're gonna go. We just kind of had the idea in the beginning. We're like, we're just gonna take imperfect, immediate action on this and see where it takes us. And we've caught some momentum and some speed, and just going into season 3 here. But a big thing for me too is that, like, you know, even with all the sponsors, and you know, so part of that with the sponsor selection for me, like, those are the companies that I selfishly like myself a lot, right? But I recognize the fact that this podcast is for the snowmobile industry as a whole. There's tons of people that ride Arctic Cat that listen to us. You know, I'm all Polaris. Or there's tons of people that rock 509 gear. Well, I like Climb. But so my personal bias doesn't matter when it comes into that selection. And so with me specifically, like, I have conversations with these sponsors that, like, all right, you're going to sponsor us, and you're going to be the only type of company within that niche that will be a sponsor, but I retain full authority on who I get to have on as a podcast. And so and I haven't announced this yet, but so this year I was able to tee up a sponsorship with Polaris.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so they sent me all their details and contracts and stuff, and my first thing back was like, I love this opportunity, but they're sponsoring me as a writer, not necessarily the podcast as a whole. But you know, there's certain things you can or can't post about, whatever. And so I reached out to them before I signed anything. I was like, hey, I want permission and the okay that, like, I'm going to, you know, if Skidoo hit me up next week to do a podcast, I'm going to do it with them.
Exactly.
Now, you know, so if we have a Polaris banner in the background and Skidoo still wants to come on, that's on Skidoo, right? But so, and Polaris, you know, came back and was like, yeah, that's totally fine. And if Polaris had told me no, then I wouldn't have taken the sponsorship. Which is big.
It's a big deal.
Because, you know, obviously that selfishly benefits me a ton. But look at what we're doing. Like, this is for the snowmobile industry as a whole. I like what I like, and that's cool. And everybody, I feel, knows that, right? Like, everybody likes to tease each other back and forth or whatever. But, you know, at the end of the day, we're all riding sleds, and that's what it's about. And so, yeah, that's the big thing with the evolution and the progress here, is to just keep pushing this as far as we can go, and where's this going to take us. And the idea is to try to get as many new people introduced to this sick obsession we call snowmobiling. And that's the whole purpose of this, right, is to just get new people exposed to what we got going on here. And so, yeah, we'll just see where time takes us. And I mean, we have goals and ambitions and stuff, but we're kind of just flowing with it at the same time too. So
yeah, I love that. I mean, that's a great way to sum it up. You know, it's just, you know, it is all about the sledder at the end of the day, you know. So I think, you know, it's a combination of what all of us are set out to do. You know, it's to provide that quality, you know, to the community that we're a part of. So
100%.
That's super cool.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Tyler with SledSend. Wanted to take a second of your guys' time and ask for your guys' support for what we're doing with the brand of SledSend. So if you guys are enjoying, you know, the podcast episodes with all the different guests, the tour videos and such, check out SledSend.com. We have a variety of different merch. Every order comes with air fresheners and stickers. And like I said, we appreciate your guys' support. We need it to continue to do this. And without further ado, let's get into the video. Was there anything that we maybe didn't touch on that you want to highlight, Frank?
As a company standpoint, I think we covered it pretty good. You know, I think that at the end of the day, you know, it's just, we're really excited to, you know, go on this journey and, you know, figure out what it all brings. You know, I got to give a shout out to my wife, Leah. You know, I mean, that everything you guys see from like a website and media perspective, I mean, that's all her. You know, I'm the guy in the garage, you know, at the end of the day that, you know, is out there building parts and figuring out, you know, what parts we're going to build. But, you know, bringing this to people, that's her. So I got to give a big shout out to her, because it takes two of us, you know, and hopefully eventually, like Kobe said, you know, hopefully it takes more than that, you know, and we can continue to expand. But we're just super stoked to, you know, get on the SledSend podcast, and, you know, and it's something that, you know, I was hoping we'd pull together last year. So I'm really excited this year, being that, you know, we've kind of, you know, put our foot down and say, hey, we're here to stay, you know. So
Heck yeah. No, I'm excited for you. It'll be cool to watch your guys' progression.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll be stoked to see it, because I think carbon fiber is a huge thing in the industry. So
yeah, I think so too.
I think, and I don't think you've got like too many competitors. So I think you've got a pretty good,
there's
pretty good shot.
there's some great carbon companies out there that have, jumped into the game as of the last year, and, try to reach out to all those guys right away and basically introduce myself. And, I'm pretty open about, how we do things and things like that. So it's like, I'm totally willing to help anybody from a perspective of like, hey, how'd you get that glossy finish? Hey, here's how I do it. I mean, at the end of the day, the goal is to progress the industry, and so there's a lot of great guys out there that's like, hey, let's progress this together. Let's continue to instill confidence in carbon. I think that's something where there's a lot of guys that still only believe in billet aluminum, and I think it's like, hey, let's really push and try to get people to buy into more carbon and also bring those prices down, right? It's something where, we're trying our best to do it as, economical as possible, and that's a big part of it because, carbon, you can price it as high as you want if you want to count all the, the man hours and all that stuff that goes into it. But like I said earlier, I mean, I think that prices you out pretty quick, and it prices out the average sledder, right? So trying to appeal to the masses is, a big part of it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, for sure.
It definitely is.
Yeah. Well, good stuff. Have you ever watched the podcast all the way to the end?
Oh yeah.
So you know what I'm about to ask you?
What's the question?
Yeah. What's the episode question that you'd like to ask the listeners and the viewers? It could be as broad or as narrow as you want it to be.
I guess so. So for me, I mean, I think your audience is still pretty mountain focused. Am I wrong in saying that?
I think you're pretty right.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think you might be a little bit broad since heydays last year, though.
The analytics are all across the country.
Okay.
I would say it's more dominating in the mountain stuff.
Yeah.
But we get listeners all the way to the East Coast.
Yeah, so that kind of...
And Norway.
Yeah, that's
over there,
perfect. So then that kind of stems my question. And so, like, we obviously have started on the mountainside as well because that's where your most mods are taking place.
Yep.
And so as a carbon fiber company, it's like in the Midwest, like I see a ton of opportunity in cross-country, snowcross racing, all these different things. Even just the average trail rider, that's riding around in northern Minnesota on the weekend. But it's kind of like to those listeners, like, where do you guys want to see us take carbon? Do you want to see us in that, in that business market? Or is like, hey, no, stay over there in your mountain side of things. We don't need that. So I think that would be my question is, just like anybody that's out there riding sleds, if you see opportunity, feel free to reach out and let us know what you see, because that helps us to kind of, figure out how broad we need to, paint our brush as well.
Need that feedback.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome question. So go ahead and answer below in the comments, and then we'll clip this and put it on Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff too. So let us know what you guys think. I think that was a great question. That should be some good feedback. So Frank, thank you so much for jumping on. I'm glad, we've been talking back and forth for the last few months now. So glad that you were able to get on here and get it done.
I appreciate you guys for having me on. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm the guest, so I really appreciate it, guys. The fact that you guys pulled this together at Heydays, I mean, I don't know, you guys should see all the cameras and everything on the other side. I mean, it's truly impressive what you guys do here. So I'm just super stoked to be on here with you guys.
Cool. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, that means a lot, Frank. So this is something that we kind of just started. If you're listening, you don't know what I'm pointing at here, but so we had this SledSend banner hanging in the studio in the office, and then Smasher, we had him come up and do a couple episodes with us, Chris Kaltenbacher, and we were just talking after we finished our episodes, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna grab a Sharpie, you should sign that.
That's awesome.
So if you would do the honors, you can sign it wherever you want, silver if you want it on the black, or the black Sharpie anywhere on the white.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's jump up here.
Dude, this fly.
There's a couple of them out here at Heydays.
Heck yeah. Cool.
Perfect.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
Carbon Pursuit.
All right, SledSend listeners, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.